Give you two mics.
Yeah, it's fine. You need it too.
Oh, if you bring up the meeting. Is that over there?
We're gonna go person back in the day. So we just went to the basic. And then the amount. These are.
This doesn't, they may want people to know it.
Oh, at Sharper. That was a good event.
I think so.
Good evening and welcome to the October 20th, 2025 board meeting for Delta Township. If you are able to rise and stand with us to do the pledge, please do so. If not, that is fine too. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, thank you. The first order of business here is roll call by Clerk Clark.
Thank you. Trustee Bowen,
Here.
trustee Cascarilla,
Present.
trustee Lyman,
Present.
trustee Mojica.
Here.
Treasurer Vidoan.
Here.
Clerk Clark is present, supervisor Brewer.
Present.
You're
Thank you so much, Clerk Clark. Next is the, we don't have any presentations or proclamations at this time. But I do want to, and maybe Brian will do this, just say congratulations to the Delta Township Library and the whole team there for their award. And I believe you may speak about that a little later.
Sure.
Okay. We are now to the agenda. Is there a motion for the agenda?
The agenda is presented.
Thank you, trustee Cascarella. Is there support? Support by trustee Malika. Any questions, discussions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We are now to public hearings. And we have our first public hearing is the 2026 fiscal year budget public hearing. And I will open that hearing. But Brian, are you going to lead or do I need Courtney to say anything first on that as we open up that public hearing?
Finance Director Nichols can answer any questions, but typically we just open the public hearing for the comments.
That's what we're going to do. So we are going to have public comments on the public hearing. If you would like to speak on the public hearing, you may do so. You have 3 minutes to speak on the budget, the public hearing for the budget. That's what this section is. I don't see any movement whatsoever. Can I say I love you all? Can I do that right now? Courtney, it's on for you. You go and close up. I didn't come.
You close the.
I'm closing the public hearing right now. Thank you.
So following the public hearing, which was posted in the paper for today, the budget is prepared to be adopted, so it's up to you if you want to adopt it tonight. There were not many changes from the draft that you saw last meeting, just the removal of the board salary increases. That's showing now is $8,000. But that was really the only change. There was a little bit of a change in the projected budget with the Hog Meadow project that we added a few weeks ago. But other than that, it's the same thing that you saw in the budget presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our controller? Not seeing any questions. Are we at the point of adopting?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to make a motion. I just wanted to make a comment about the budget, if I may.
Sure, you can certainly do that. Do you want to move it first and then comment during discussion?
I can.
Or do you want to make the comment?
Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to make a comment. I know in our budget packet, it included a report on all of our community events, and kudos to staff and especially Parks and Rec Department that puts on all of these events. I think it's really helpful. I don't know if we've ever had this information that's been shared in the past, but certainly helpful just to know the level of involvement just with staff, resources that go in there. We have a lot a lot of these events, as has been kind of conveyed more generally, either with revenues from the events or with sponsorships, kind of cover those costs, which is great to see too. And especially right now, just with circumstances, you know, our budget being very tight with a lot of unexpected and unplanned burdens with the township's own bank drain, you know, assessments and our costs related to that, the unexpected circumstances and the cost of ensuring we have public safety in the township. And those burdens are being borne by a number of our residents directly. And one of the things I wanted to just suggest with our events, especially some of these that are bigger in that we really look to kind of limit budgets, especially on larger events, limiting those to sponsorships. I think we do a pretty good job of generating sponsorships and are kind of approaching that differently. But especially this coming year, knowing things are tight, I think it would be really helpful and send a strong positive message to the community that we tighten our belt a little bit there as much as possible, look for outside resources to support these events and try and redirect, you know, as we look at all those pennies. And I think we've, as a board, looked at expenses we incur, kind of just tightening that up and really placing some limits. Most of these events, the costs are pretty minimal. So, you know, I don't think there's as much concern, but I think we can just try and show a little restraint in planning for events around what we're able to support with sponsorships and revenues we generate. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you, trustee Cascarella. Is there any other comment before we
Yeah, I have
make a
a
motion?
I have a comment as well on this. I thank you, trustee Cuscarella. I think those comments are well put. And I want to thank Brian for the additional information that he supplied that was supplied to the board. And this is something I asked for this morning, and I just got it just before the meeting. So I asked the whole board be shared with this information. It's a couple things. One was the cost of a particular event. But one of my concerns is not just the cost of an event or the events, but it's the lack of what we aren't doing as well in recognition of what I feel is an important milestone and somber history of our country. I mean, we have a number of holidays were closed, and right now we're only celebrating one federal holiday. We don't have the fireworks that was celebrating allegedly our Independence Day. We don't do anything for Memorial Day. We don't do anything for Veterans Day. And I would like to challenge staff to think about what this township can do in celebrating the sacrifices of some $1.3 million, or excuse me, 1.3 million casualties have died in every war and conflict in this country since its beginning. And we're nearing our 250th anniversary. So I think it's important we recognize those who have sacrificed and those who have served. And we just don't do that. And so I would like to challenge staff to think about what we can do in a cost-efficient manner that would celebrate that sacrifice. And, you know, that would be, I think, an appropriate thing for the board to consider, whatever staff, you know, may contemplate and come back on. So that's one comment. The other is just to point out in this budget that staff had recommended $10,000 limit on conferences. And we talked about that, and that was based on a 2025. And deducting what an abnormally large conference was, which occurs every 4 years. So I asked staff to put together a table to look at, okay, so what if we did, what would be the cost for the 3 basic conferences for a member of the board and, or the manager for that matter. And that's the table in the packet that you gave, that you were given. And the 3 conferences, if a board member wished to do it, projected for 2026 would be $3,500, and we're limited to 2,000. So that means we wouldn't be able to do 1, we wouldn't even be able to probably do 2. So, you know, one of the things that we expect staff is to stay on top of issues in the network with their colleagues and other communities. And basically that's what these exercises are as well, is to network and to learn what other issues are emerging that are challenging township governance. And I think what we're doing is we're hamstringing ourselves. And now if we want to do a moratorium on all conferences for a year, and we can talk about that, but sit there and try to strangle any you know, intent of a conscientious board member to actually participate and learn things and bring it back to the township. I just think it's short-sighted. So I'm pointing out that basically the $10,000 is inadequate. That's in the budget now. And the board can decide what we want to do on that, but I think it's just too low and I think it's short-sighted.
Thank you.
The other thing, I have one more.
Okay.
And last year I had asked, we'd had a discussion regarding projects that were solicited by our staff, asking residents for any small public space improvement projects. I mean, I have been witness and have learned of what these small projects can do from these conferences, for example, and I believe trustee Bowen has witnessed the same thing. And they're just exciting to see. I mean, these are low hanging fruit. So we had that discussion. I suggested we earmark $25,000, which is 0.01% of our $21 million general fund budget. The discussion ended is that, well, let's let staff come up with an idea in how to pursue something like that. And we're here a year later and nothing has happened. So I would like to make a plea to staff is to, now that other major projects are dwindling down and they're off the table, let's take a look at what we can do with small hanging fruit, ideas from the community. And I don't care how it's vetted. It can be vetted through the Parks Commission. It could be vetted through the board itself or a committee. But there's a lot of good ideas that don't cost a lot of money. And if we can participate by providing landscaping supplies or paint, you know, just simple things like that, we should be encouraging that, because what that does is enhance our community and enhances our neighborhoods. And that's in our master plan and that's in our strategic plan. And this is just one of those no-brainers that we should actually be doing and should have been doing for a number of years. So I want to make that comment that we should really encourage staff to come up with some sort of program along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Fito. Clerk Clark.
Yes, I just wanted to respond to Treasurer Fito's comment about national holidays and celebrating those who have served our country. And Brian might be able to tell me when it was. Sometime, I think shortly after COVID, we tried to do a Memorial Day celebration. We have no entities in our township. We have no American Legions. We have no Veterans of Foreign Wars. We have none of those things. And when I reached out to a number of those in surrounding communities, they were committed to serving the community in which they are physically located. So I just want to make clear to everybody, there has been attempts by staff to do some of these things, but we are a unique community and that we don't have anybody we don't have any of those organizations in our boundaries, which was surprising when I went digging in along with Marcus to find this. So that was just a little tidbit of history. And I also want to point out regarding, Treasurer Fidel's comment about things that we do still have the neighborhood improvement grants that we started when, Jeff Anderson was our acting supervisor, I think is when they started. And my neighborhood did a few years ago, applied for a grant and was able to do some, subdivision entrance improvements. So we still do have those, and I think we had some applications for those things this year. Brian or Mary can correct me on that. And then getting to the conferences, this has been a sore point for me for a long time. I brought it up probably for the first time, actually right before COVID. And I understand that the importance of everything, and I commented at our last meeting that I consciously made a choice this year to not go over the basic $2,000 that we had talked about for the upcoming year, which meant I did not go to MTA, I did not go to ML, and I did not go to MML CapCon. I went only those that had a direct impact on my day-to-day execution of my statutory and non-statutory responsibilities. And I could do it I would have done it for under 2,000 if we didn't have a special meeting that I had to drive back from Muskegon. I would have been under the 2,000. I get that there are things that are of benefit, but I also get that some of them are ridiculously expensive. And I'm not sure that the return on dollar is real. I can have a conversation with the treasurer after this meeting because some of the suppositions that he made in the additional budget information that he asked to be put are inaccurate. So I'm glad we're not using that document for anything in particular. But the board voted to have whatever the conference amount is in the budget, to have that spread equally over the board members, the 5, and then the treasurer and the clerk would have that like amount in their budget for conferences and training. And I think that we're not married to $2,000 a year, but I don't think it will hurt for us to live to that level for 26 and see where we go from there.
Thank you, Clerk Clark. Any other comments?
One point of clarification, if I may, ma'am.
And then we're gonna get a motion before we continue with discussion. Yes.
I did not.
Treasurer Fedor?
I'm sorry,
No, I
what?
said, go ahead, Treasurer Fedor.
So this was put together by staff. I did not put these together.
Oh, I'm not talking about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
Is it possible for you two to have that dialogue?
Yes, that's why I
after
said
the
I'd
meeting?
talk to you
She
afterwards.
said she will talk to you afterwards.
I did
It's not
do
a
that.
document.
Right,
that was
it's not
given
a
to the
public
public.
document.
Okay, so is there a motion to adopt the budget, Clerk Clark?
Gonna find the motion.
know, I
Sorry,
didn't
I
find it.
lost it now.
Is there not one in here?
No, I didn't see one.
No.
Yes, on the first page.
It's kind of, okay. I see it.
On the August.
You see it?
Yeah, I move the,
I don't, but go ahead.
I move the Delta Township Board adopt the budget for 2026 by appropriating funds as follows. Is that, Do you want me to say?
As listed in the.
As listed in the packet, and then
Yes.
it moves on to estimated revenues to support the appropriations above are then what follows, and then at the end it says appropriations will be deemed maximum authorizations to incur expenditures.
Is there support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Now we can have more comment. If anyone has any more comment, I do. And I'd like to say something if everyone has that opportunity to speak.
It was
Trustee
a
Bowen,
roll call.
and then it'll be a roll call vote once we finish with discussion.
The only thing I want to say is simply the list of events that Parks and Rec puts on. This is one of the things that Parks and Rec does. They do programming. And so we want them to do that. That is their function in addition to maintaining our parks and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Trustee Bowen. I would like to say, I just want to thank all of the board members who, we struggled through some decisions. We've had a lot of tough decisions over the last year, no question about it. And this is my 7th year. This has probably been the toughest year of so many decisions, so many large ticket projects, so many changes and darts coming at us. And we're still standing. And I love that for this board. With regards to comments about some of the parks, I appreciate that. Yes, we should always be looking at our budget levels and where we are. But I also say that I know this community embraces the project. And I think one that I believe may be highlighted, not necessarily said is Juneteenth, that we're not recognizing other holidays. And I have to say, that's what I love about this township. We do recognize other holidays and we do recognize the value of diversity, so much so when this was talked about, I believe a few years back, maybe in the earlier years of me being on the board, it was said right at this board table by a couple of board members is to do something special because this is a federal holiday and it deserves that level of recognition. And I couldn't agree more. And that doesn't mean to lessen other holidays, but we can do all of those things and we can recognize holidays as we choose to. But I am delighted that Juneteenth was a startup recognition for us for the last couple of years. And it is so well run now and balanced. And we were able to, thanks to Mary, I think she knocked on every door there was to knock on to get scholars, to get sponsorship dollars. And so it is a well-oiled machine now. And there were lessons learned. And it will be another part of Delta Rocks all year long series. It's not a standout. It's not a carve out, nor is diversity, not in this community. That's not how we work here. And so I wanted to put that on record. And with regards to the conferences, this board took a look at the conferences. We made a hard decision at a couple of meetings ago. We said, yep, we're going to hold it down at 10,000. And this is not 10,000 forever. It's 2026. Sometimes the conferences are in places where it's more expensive. And so every year we will have an opportunity to look at the price tag for the total pool of conference dollars and make a budgetary decision. So this is not where we're locking it into perpetuity. That's not the case. It's for 2026. We're asking our community to tighten up. We ought to do the same thing, and I'm willing to do that. And if that means I've got to pay extra because I want to go to a conference, that's what I'll do. That's what I have to do. So I am in support of leaving the conferences just as they are. I appreciate the hard work that administration went into to try to get us to a place where we can all hold our head up high in the community, recognizing that everybody took a little hit, including us. So I stand by that. And if there is no more discussion, roll call vote, please. Madam Clerk.
Is there more discussion? No? Okay.
No, I was the last to speak.
Trustee Monica,
Yes.
trustee Bowen,
Yes.
trustee Cascarella,
Yes.
trustee Lyman.
Aye.
Treasurer Fedowa.
Yes.
Clerk Clark is yes, supervisor Berger.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you so much. We have adopted a budget for 2026. All right, we have no communications here. I don't know that there were any Clerk Clark that came in. Or Brian Reed, I don't have to read, I don't believe so. We are now to public comments. Public comments. If anyone would love to speak, we'd love to hear from you. You can address the board. You have 3 minutes to speak to the board. And please state your name and your residence.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dustin Howard. I'm the business manager for the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Local 333. I do not live in Delta Township, I gotta say, but I also, we represent many of our members that do live in Delta Township. And one thing I'd like to talk about tonight is the discussion of responsible contractors policy. So we are very pleased to hear that Delta Township is considering adopting a responsible contractors policy, like so many other municipalities have done in Michigan. The responsible contractors policy provides full transparency for the taxpayers so they can be assured they are getting the highest quality work for their hard-earned tax money spent. A few things I would urge the board to consider while its discussion of the policy is still fresh. Number one would be to lower the threshold from $250,000 to below $100,000. In comparison, the city of Lansing's threshold is at $50,000. And Ann Arbor's policy is at $75,000. The policy, number two, the policy should include not only construction projects, but also service contracts for Delta Township. Number three, include all tax abatement, tax deferment, and TIFA requests, including all industrial, commercial, and residential projects. We've all kind of seen what's happened at Delta Crossings, and I think with a well thought out responsible contractors policy, that would be a minimum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dustin.
Hello, good evening, trustees. How are you? So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of the proposed responsible contractor policy. My name is Jacob Toomey. I'm a proud member of Laborers Local 499, which represents workers who live and work here in Delta Township. I serve as the Deputy Director of Government Affairs for the Michigan Laborers District Council, known as Michigan LIUNA, which represents more than 15,000 active and retired members statewide, including over 1,500 members of Local 499. Firstly, I'd like to thank Supervisor Brewer and the entire board, as well as the administration, for your hard work on this policy. It's clear that a lot of time and thought went into ensuring taxpayers see the most value for their dollars and that public projects are completed safely, efficiently, and responsibly. The responsible contractors policy before you today is about modernizing how Delta Township selects contractors in publicly funded construction projects, making sure the township works with companies that have a proven record of quality, safety, and accountability. This policy encourages contractors to invest in training through publicly funded construction projects. Policy encourages contractors to invest in training through state-approved apprenticeship programs, ensuring workers on the job are properly trained, highly skilled, and ready to deliver high-quality results. It also supports fair wages, benefits, which attract, retain the best local talent, reduce turnover, and strengthen working families, many of which live here in Delta Township. And just as importantly, it does a great job at prioritizing safety. When contractors invest in training and follow responsible practices, injuries go down, productivity goes up, and projects get completed on time and on budget. But ultimately, this is also about fiscal responsibility. And the responsible contractors policy ensures that public dollars deliver real value, improving outcomes for both the workers and the taxpayers. And the research backs this up. A study by the Illinois Economic Policy Institute, which analyzed over 1,000 public projects in areas with responsible contracting policies, found that responsible bidder ordinances increase the number of bids per project by 8% and have no significant impact on total construction costs. This is largely because they attract more qualified contractors who perform better and waste fewer resources. Across Michigan, more than 15 municipalities, including 3 of the 5 states, 5 largest cities, have adopted similar ordinances. They've seen the benefits firsthand: higher standards, greater accountability, and stronger workforces. This ordinance is good for Delta Township, it's good for taxpayers, and it's good for the hardworking men and women who build and maintain our public infrastructure. All that being said, I do want to offer a few suggestions that I believe can make this already strong policy even stronger. So firstly, this policy applies to construction policies over $250,000. For comparison, Lansing's policy is set at $15,000 and the city of Jackson's is set at $50,000. And most municipalities in Michigan use thresholds under $100,000. I'd encourage the board to consider lowering the threshold closer to that range, around $100,000 or below, to ensure more projects fall under the responsible and best value standards. Secondly, the 100-point evaluation scale has significant differences when compared to other similarly sized municipalities. Price makes up about 45% of the score, while workforce development and workplace safety are much lower. I have a worry that this change places too much emphasis on the lowest bid rather than on long-term value, training, and safety performance on the job site. I believe a stronger policy would change the price weighting by 10 to 15 points and distribute those points toward workforce development and safety, which more directly measure a contractor's reliability and commitment to their employees.
Jacob.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hello, trustees. How are you this evening?
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Aaron Pangborn, Business Manager for IBEW Local 665, located at 5710 Ivan Drive, right here in Delta Township. I represent over 850 highly trained and skilled electrical workers in and around Delta Township. On behalf of the men and women of IBEW Local 665, I'm here to speak in support of changes and amendments to Delta Township's policy for responsible contractors for the township-funded construction projects. This policy should be about making smart investments with public money, not just picking the lowest bidder and hoping for the best. It should be about promoting responsible contracting, strengthening our local economy, and ensuring high-quality work on township-funded projects. It should be about awarding construction contracts to employers who invest in their workforce, deliver on time, and don't cut corners. And most importantly, it should be about employing and retaining the best trained and qualified construction workers that live and work in Delta Township. Let's take this opportunity to get this policy right so we can make a smart use of public dollars and deliver the best value to Delta Township.
Thank you. Aaron.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Dan Quina, 8311 Topaz. I'm here tonight to urge the residents of the township to vote no on CATA. I have been here several times in the last few months talking about the reality of CATA in Route 3. I was glad to see that you put some numbers in the last Delta Township bulletin, which pretty much go with the same numbers that I have been giving you the last few months. In here, it says that 53,000 riders rode Route 3 annually. Sounds pretty impressive, 53,000. But when you do the math, you divide 53,000 by 365 days a year, you come up with 147 passengers per day on Route 3. Then you divide that by 33 runs up and down Marketplace in Route 3, you come up with 4.4 riders per bus up and down Marketplace 33 times a day. Certainly not a good investment. Those buses are running at less than 10% capacity. This millage does not benefit the residents of Delta Township whatsoever, including the businesses, which I've talked to many business owners. They don't like what's going on with the shoplifting that's happening. Also, it says here in your bulletin that 69% of Route 3 riders are reliant on public transportation. That may be true. I guess, did the poll ask how many of the riders were Delta Township residents? Probably not. And if it did, my guess is you're going to find that percentage to be very, very low of people that are benefiting from the Delta Township residents are benefiting from this Route 3 extension. Also, it says at the same time, 70% of riders old on Route 3 have been riding for 4 or less years. Again, how many of those 70% are Delta Township residents? Probably not very many. So I would encourage the residents of this township to vote no on this CAD proposal. That on top of the 1.5 for police, which I am in favor of, because that directly benefits the residents here in the township. But certainly the CADA does not help. I have not spoken to, I'm not saying there aren't any, Delta Township residents that ride Route 3, but I've spoken to 100 people in the last few months. Not one has said they've ever used CATA. This is a program that was funded by a grant, and the grant proves that this Route 3 extension is not needed. I encourage the Delta Township residents to vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George, do you need help?
No,
Get to the mic.
you're not. I've got this, can I use my usual microphone?
Of course. I think it's ready for you.
Thank you. And as the board knows, my name is George Hanley, 943 House Lane. I am a Dutch Township resident of decades. I use Catus Spectran and I also use E-Tran to get hit here on the regular. And for all of my entire life events, religion, political, social, everything, medical included. The transit millage, which is its actual name, involves E-Tran, CATA, and everything else that the township chooses to fund. And just the CATA portion alone covers not only Route 3, but Route 12, which goes out to the west campus of LCC, which is busy as all get out, especially in the but not limited to when the campus is in session. And I really wish those numbers were accurately used, because they are absolutely not. There is also the connections which are absolutely critical for not only health and Lansing, but also Grand Rapids and Charlotte are a lot. The shopping I could go on and on for hours, but suffice it to say, I am a local and statewide transit expert and advocate for my entire life. I am also, as his member of this board, and some members of the community know, a local and statewide transit advocate, and as members here know, nonpartisan. So if anyone wants information and that is true and correct, I have the connections and knowledge to tell you, and I will give you the unharnessed truth, no matter which party you're from. So please come and ask, I will tell you. I am also, for the treasurer's knowledge, a son of the American Revolution. I'm just descended from Thomas. It's water aid to William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania, well, back in colonial times when there were no political parties, and we did arrange into these camps and fight over 7. Politics was just for the public good, but making the most with whatever we had. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Next speaker, please. Do you need any help, George?
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Paul Zurich. I am with the Laborers International Union of North America, and I am a Delta Township resident. I've got 3 kids in schools, use the library and parks all the time. Thank you very much for the work you do. I love this community. I just wanted to say that I'm very excited that you're considering this responsible contracting ordinance. I have seen the evidence that in every community there has been growth, and there has been stability, and there have been good jobs. Like the jobs I have, where I get insurance and a good wage, and I get a pension, and I get union protection and training and safety. There are a couple of things that I would like to address within the ordinance. The workforce development section, section 2, there's a new line that says, in the absence of an apprenticeship program, an explanation on how the bidder assesses the skills and qualifications of employees who do not have master or journeyman license status. My concern is that this language could allow a contractor without a registered apprenticeship program to still earn most or all of the available points in this category. which would weaken one of the policy's key incentives. I'd encourage the board to remove that sentence to make sure that participation in a registered apprenticeship program remains a requirement to score highly in the section. The philosophy there being that you don't want a contractor who is taking resources from the city, the workers, the available workforce, without refreshing it. They should be training new workers to grow the workforce and grow the community and supply them with good jobs. That's my belief in a registered apprenticeship program. In section E, under subcontractor compliance, the draft sets the threshold at $100,000. This should be significantly lowered to 25,000 so that prime contractors can't subcontract large portions of a project to entities that aren't held to the same responsible standards. That change would help ensure every dollar of public spending is accountable and every worker on the job is properly qualified and avoids a race to the bottom in Delta Township. Overall, this strong forward-thinking policy reflects Delta Township's commitment to quality, fairness, and financial responsibility. And these small adjustments would help make sure the ordinance meets its full potential, protecting taxpayers, supporting responsible contractors, and creating good paying jobs for local workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Michelle Hart. I live at 4509 Meaford Street here in Delta Township. I spoke here 2 weeks ago in opposition to the public safety millage proposal as it has been presented by this board. And at that time, I asked for more clarity on where the $1.5 million would be spent. Of concern with the millage language is this statement. These services may be purchased by the township from E-Tran, CATA, or private companies in order to provide services to those who access the public transit system. What private companies? Taxpayers deserve more information on any private companies the township is considering, such as Uber Transport or others. Statements have been made that the millage could pay for salaries that were not covered with the grant allocation or that additional routes could be added. But so far, no one has outlined specifically where $1.5 million will be spent annually for a route that CATA CEO said costs between $600,000 and $700,000 a year. When the township sought funding for the sheriff substation through a ballot proposal, you knew what the estimated expenses would be down to the cost of the carpet and the doorknobs, and asked for funding accordingly. I don't understand why a clearer cost analysis of the proposed transportation expenses is not publicly available. This millage is asking for a pie in the sky with bigger visions that remain uncommunicated and unclear. Does a clear cost analysis exist? It has also been suggested that additional routes could be added to service companies like Amazon and other employers for their employees' use because they pay significant property taxes. Really? I checked BSNA. Amazon's total tax rate for summer is 26.477 mils and winter is 18.7437 mils. Those are the same tax rates that I pay, my neighbors pay, and all of our taxpayers pay. However, unlike these companies, we cannot pass along our tax expenses to our consumers who use our products like they can. I am not opposed to the township offering some level of public transportation. I am opposed to providing you with a $15 million blank check for 10 years without any information of how it will be spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next public speaker. Yes, come on up. Welcome.
Oh, my name is Sergeant Pete Walter, and I'm filling in for Captain Black today. And I did not know I was going to be here till like 15 minutes before the meeting started, but I just want to take this opportunity to publicly thank the citizens of Delta Township for the new substation building. I worked in the old building for like 18 years. The fire retardant system, the water was leaking in the ceiling. The locker room was horrid. It was a horrible place to work. We've been in this building for what, maybe almost a year now, close. And every day I go to work, it amazes me walking in that building and be able to work in that building. It's a beautiful building. The new kids who did not work in the old building don't have the same appreciation, but the old timers that work there, every day we walk in, it's like, oh my gosh, we can't believe how nice that building is. So I just want to thank the citizens of Delta Township. Thank you so much for a great place to work. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
So.
Any more speakers? Not seeing any movement. Is George, I'm sorry, but we're out of public speaking. Is there something you can say very quickly?
One point of clarification, the 600,000 is starting which
You guys feel okay? Do we need George? Can somebody push George to the mic? Because he's pushed enough today. And we'll give you a minute, George.
30 seconds.
Okay. And I would give that same liberty to anyone else tonight because I did it for one.
The 600,000 for Route 3 is total cost of the entire length of Route 3. It is not the entirety of Route 3, so that is not the Delta's portion of it is much more piece. Thank you. I do not have the numbers. I can bring them to the next meeting if you would like.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. Yes, you get 30 seconds. Come up to the mic, please. This is just for tonight, you guys, okay? But it's okay. We
I want to
welcome you
thank,
coming.
I'd like to thank Treasurer Fedewa. Last week I left a message on Thursday and the very next day he called me back. We had a nice
Yes.
conversation about CATA. Thank you for calling me back. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we are moving from public comment and we are down to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Motion?
Approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Cascarilla,
Yes.
trustee Lyman,
Aye.
trustee Mahika,
Yes.
trustee Bowen,
Yes.
treasurer Fedewa.
Yes.
Clerk Clark is yes, supervisor Brewer,
Yes.
motion carried.
That motion carries unanimously. We are moving all the way down to, there's no old business, no new business. We are to Manager Reed's report.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor and board members. Start off with a little bad news before I get to good news. We're dealing with well, as I mentioned to you yesterday, we were dealing with a water main break on Saginaw over by Breton and Baycroft. So that is actually one of our crossings. So our utility director, Rick Kane, provided some information and and those are water crossings. We're just tying the water main across the road. We have approximately 20 of them on this stretch. If you remember several years ago, we started replacing those crossings. So we've had about 5 or 6 done. We have about 11 crossings that were from pre 1962. So took a very proactive approach. So I just had noticed that we had some comments that the township doesn't always take proactive approach. We really were trying. Some of these have some complications in terms of design. So we had been working through those. Unfortunately, did not catch this one before it broke. So we will be working on a full repair replacement for that coming up. And for future crossings, as I say, we probably have about 6 more that are pre 1962. We have some other old ones, but then we have some newer ones and some ones that are actually in the sleeves that are easier to repair if we do have a break. So just wanted to give you that information because that's going to be a fairly large repair over there and a project we'll be bringing back to the board most likely. On to good news, as Supervisor Brewer mentioned, just like to commend our Delta Township District Library. They're the recipient of the 2025 State Librarians Excellence Award for Superior Customer Service. through the Library of Michigan. So very, very prestigious award. So they'll be presented with that at the Michigan Library Association Awards event later this month. And I think we all are very proud of our library and the services that they provide. And really, I'm always amazed, number one, at everything they provide, but just the sheer number of residents that they push through that library on a daily basis is pretty staggering. And so, congratulations to them. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or you?
No, I'm just super excited when I heard about it. I immediately reached out to Mary, the director there, and said, congratulations, kudos. And I plan to stop by there this week as well to say thank you to the whole team in person.
Are they, I'm sorry, so say again, they're gonna be presented with something, are we?
No,
Are they
they're gonna, I had asked if Mary could come tonight, but she
Okay.
was not able to do so this evening. So we'll try to get her in and recognize her here and the team, because it's,
Yeah.
as Mary said, it's not just me, it's the entire team, and she's absolutely right. So we will certainly extend an invitation to them to come back to the board. That is big time recognition, big time.
Last week, thanks to the board members who came out to our master plan session. So again, continued congratulations to Peter. He really gets people out for those events. So over 100 people showed up for that. Very exciting news, as you know, our McLaren Emergency Center opened a couple weeks ago. This morning at 7 a.m. it opened the emergency department. So we've been eager today to see how many transports that we took there. So as of right now, before the meeting, unless we've had any in the meeting, we have transported 6 patients there today. So it's a so very big asset to have this close in the community. If you've driven to the main McLaren or to the main Sparrow anytime recently, or like in the last 5 years, there's very hard to get to. So I know that really weighs on our paramedics and EMTs as we bring patients there. The emergency rooms are packed. We don't always get a very quick turnaround. So this is a good relief to have this for some of the lower acuity calls and save time and keep units in service. So I'm very hopeful that this provides some relief for paramedics who are, turning and burning a lot. So that's very good news today, and look forward to continued data on that. That's all I have for today, but happy to answer any questions of the board. I will say, just back to the discussion on the budget for micro projects. We did not create a formal program, but always open to suggestions. I think recently we had the donation of the Peace Pole, which is going to be a new installation that we are providing the installation for. The Peace Pole is a donation by Rotary, so we're open to those types of ideas, whenever they come out. So.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Manager Reed? And I did want to acknowledge Manager Reed and the business office. They are going to be scheduling our strategic planning session. We thought not the end of this year, that we've been through a lot through the end of this year. So right at the beginning of the new year, we will have a session where we can talk about the vision, our collective vision. It's not my vision, it's a collective vision. And I believe in that it's not one person's vision, it is our vision on what we'd like to see done, including what Treasurer Fedewa spoke about, something like that. So there will be a session that will be sent out, some dates to see if we can align everybody's schedule to have our board strategic planning session or visionary session. I hate to say strategic planning, but it'll be our visionary session and an opportunity for us to work together, sort of set the suits aside and work together for a few hours. So that'll be coming up in the beginning of the year. Thank you, Manager Reed.
Just one more reminder, Sharp Park ribbon cutting will be on October 28th at 11 a.m. Just make sure that it's on your calendar. I know we sent out a calendar invite already, but the formal invitations will be going out tomorrow, actually, so.
Exciting. If you haven't seen Sharp Park, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So please join us, public, for that ribbon cutting, and it's just beautiful there. Absolutely lovely. Okay, we are now to board member committee reports.
I do, Madam Supervisor. Brian gave you all the good news. I get to give you the bad news. As you know, we have an election on November 4th, and we were notified on Thursday, when we were scheduling election equipment delivery, that one of the churches that we use, Grace Bible on South Canal, had actually sold, this summer. We were there in May, and that, the new owner was unable to accommodate our needs, for a precinct. So we scurried around. I called the state because we're well past the deadlines for moving things around. And we'll be mailing in the morning postcards to all the impacted voters, which is precinct 14. And we will be moving those voters permanently to Mount Hope Church. An hour later, we got a phone call from Our Savior Lutheran, which indicated that they would be continuing their commitment to be a precinct through 25. And in 2026, they would no longer have a precinct in their building. They just have way more students and lots of activities happening. So we will be, after the November election, doing a consolidation, and we will be moving precinct 13, which was at Our Savior Lutheran, also merged with precinct 14 into Mount Hope Church. We have no facilities left at all west of Price, with the exception of Mount Hope, south of Saginaw. So
Well, it does help
selfishly,
a little bit with the absentee ballot voting, but
right,
still.
but still, you have to have your by law.
Please, yeah,
We are
places.
required to have that. So the positive in all of this is that that reduces another precinct. So we will have gone from 16 to 14 to 11 to 10. So we are consolidated as much as we can consolidate. And we have no more facilities except for the possibility of a precinct in sooner versus later in the designated land at Mount Hope Park, which I will continue to remind the board.
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from any of the meetings? Oh,
I just wanted to make a comment on that. Clerk Clark, when you say we've consolidated as much as we can, that's as much as we legally can. We are
Correct.
constrained on how
Numbers.
the size and the
Mhm.
numbers.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Conundrum, clearly. Thank you, trustee Cascarella. Any other report outs from any of your committee meetings? Okay, not hearing any. I just want to share that I had a wonderful opportunity over the weekend to recognize Mrs. Walker, who's been a long-term resident of Delta Township. She turned 99 years old. And her family reached out to me and asked if I would come and be there. And thank goodness for Mary Warland, who's so awesome. She created a certificate on behalf of us that I was able to take on Saturday and presented her 99th birthday party. And she is more mobile than I am, so I have work to do. But I just wanted to say, those are sometimes we get to do a little bit of the fun stuff. And I always enjoy doing that. So happy birthday, Mrs. Walker. She had family from all over the United States that came in to celebrate her 99th birthday. So I told her I would mention her at the board meeting. She was excited about that. All right, we are now on to our committee of the whole section, and we have one topic, I believe, on committee of the whole, and that is the responsible bidding contractor policy. And I am going to let Manager Reed sort of start us off. This will be a discussion by any board member that wants to chime in and comment on that. Again, this is just a discussion. This is like our first peek at it, our first look at it. And with the thought that if there is something, this is something that the board wants to move forward on, it will come back to a board meeting with revisions or whatever, or as is, I can't say because that's up to the body. It will come back to this board hopefully I think in November is the plan. All right, so Manager Reed, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you Supervisor Brewer. So you have a lot of materials provided for you. So this is a policy that several of our board members have pushed for. I appreciate Mr. Toomey providing some background information on these policies and whatnot. So we looked at several policies across the state. Policies or ordinances for comparison, and basically pulled from those examples. So this would be a bit of a change from our purchasing policy. The one thing I would say, our current purchasing policy in our culture and history has never been about simply accepting low bid. As early as last meeting, we did not accept a low bid for our roof job at the enrichment center. Our staff does a tremendous job of vetting these companies and bids on every project to safeguard the township. That said, did prepare some a sample policy for the board to consider, or at least a workshop at this point. So you have my memo provided that kind of gives you background on a responsible bidding policy. I have drafted this as a policy versus an ordinance, similar to our purchasing policy. I think it's easier to make adjustments as we go along without the several month process and publishing and that type of thing. Then we do have the actual policy itself, the responsible contractor pre-qualifying screening questionnaire, and complaint form, which is called for in the policy. As my memo lays out, I think a lot of the language follows many of the examples that are in other communities. Some of the points for consideration were mentioned during the public comment, which includes the threshold for projects, the rubric for scoring, and any language. So I'm happy to walk through our thinking on any of that, but interested in hearing any questions or reactions. This is our first time in terms of looking at responsible bidder policy, so did my best to pull things together. I appreciate, again, efforts of my staff pulling together some of the example languages or sample policies and spreadsheets from other communities.
Thank you. Are there questions or dialogue?
Yeah.
Treasurer Peterwalk?
Thanks, Brian. I think your initial presentation here and documents are well placed. I would just say that, just a flashback. Remember when we were looking at the universal development agreements that were being discussed in the city of Lansing, and then we were looking at it, and then COVID hit, and so everything just kind of stopped. So I think this is sort of a continuation of that, because it was basically it's trying to use the taxpayers' dollars in the most transparent and economic and beneficial to the community way possible. Just to start off, there were a number of specific recommendations by some commentators. And I'm wondering if for our next meeting or in between our next meeting, if we could have those listed and maybe what we think of those, you know, at our next meeting as to whether we want to incorporate them or not. Because I think there's probably at least 4, 5, or 6 of those things, and I'm not sure I jotted them all down. But, you know, I think overall, the focus of this is correct. I agree with some of the comments that the 250 threshold is way too high. I mean, the city of Lansing, I believe, is 50,000. Ann Arbor, I believe, is 75,000. Some of the comments here is, you know, it should be less than 100,000, whatever that may be, that the board agrees to. I heard that service contracts need to be specifically included. You know, I tend to agree with that. I don't know if there's any arguments against that. What I definitely agreed with is that if we're looking at expenditures of public funds, it's more than just dollars being spent in a contract. It's also in terms of tax expenditures. And in budget talk, that means what sort of tax breaks are you giving developers or contractors, for example. And those are also tax expenditures in an expense way because it's revenue that we are not gathering in. I know that we have a few TIFAs. We have at least one industrial facilities tax abatements. And I know there's going to be a lineup for any residential developments now that the housing TIFAs are state law and locals are allowed to entertain that as well as pilot programs. Those all are basically taxpayer money that's being held in abeyance for a particular reason. And I think that this criteria of who they hire, who they employ, and the transparency of this process should also apply to that as well. So that is something I think that we should have a policy discussion, you know, next time as a board as well. I know there's some other issues regarding the workforce development that was mentioned. So I don't have everything jotted down, but I think it would be best for the board to know what every one of those comments were, so we have a good thorough understanding of what sort of questions and concerns and adjustments to this language that are being asked for by the speakers that have come before us. So I'll just leave it at that and have other people comment.
Thank you, Treasurer Feedaway. Clerk Clark?
I just need a clarification, and it doesn't have to come tonight. It can come from our speakers through the manager's office so that we have it for the next meeting. So if I'm understanding this correctly, like if we do a tax for someone to expand and they commit to, I'm blanking on what they're called, but IFT, thank you. Does that include an IFT? And so I need some clarity on what exactly is being referenced here. But
Or I guess I would answer that. So I heard the comment and appreciate the comments. That this policy was drafted specifically for our project, so I'd have to do a little more.
Okay, thank you.
How it
That clarified
transfers
that.
on
Yeah,
to
that answers my question. Hello, thank you. I knew that, and
No, good question. Good question to ask.
thank you.
Trustee Bowen?
I would just like to say that with our work this year with writing down our policies in many different ways, that I like to see this because this allows staff who make those decisions, as Manager Reed pointed out, they look for these kinds of quality things. This written policy backs them up and gives them support in their decision-making. And also I would like to thank our labor friends for coming in and giving us their suggestions on something that they are more familiar with than I am at this point. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just as a follow-up to Treasurer Feda's comments and just requesting responses to some of the points or suggested changes. I don't know how easy it is to produce, so don't mean to create a lot of work, but is it possible to just look back at the last year or two and see kind of what I don't need all the details on a project, but just wondering like the price and what that was for, and just kind of just to see what our thresholds are and how that fits in with the policy, how much we're capturing or not. And probably just knowing, I don't even know if the projects need to be named, but the amount of the projects individually, just to kind of see where those all fall and, or if it's X number of projects over this amount, X number within this range, just some sense of how that work fits in and what we may be, what we're capturing and what we aren't with what's been proposed. Thank you.
Josh?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, and it really just has to do with the variable piece. I don't know how everybody else feels about how it's currently weighted. But I would like to see just workplace safety and workforce development a little bit heavier weighted. I know price needs to stay number one first and foremost. But making sure we have qualified people and make sure they've gone through the proper OSHA trainings, I think would be just a priority for me.
Other comments?
I'm comfortable. I think one of the speakers mentioned taking, for example, 10% from pricing and splitting 5% to workforce safety and 5% to workforce development, which would bump them each up a little bit, is certainly a reasonable. It's nothing super drastic, but it does put a little more weight on things that.
It doesn't take the price by doing it that way. I agree. It doesn't take the price all the way down to, I think some municipalities have it at 25%. It's probably way too low, but taking it down just a little bit to put a little bit more emphasis on that.
Yeah. Other comments?
Yeah, there was also a comment regarding subcontractors, and I think the threshold was $100,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that seems really kind of high because, you know, if you've got a $500,000 contract and you don't want to abide by this, you just subdivide it, you know, by 5 subcontractors and you've avoided the whole thing. So we need to be cognizant of that. But that falls into all these issues is like, what are the specific recommendations that have been suggested to us? I'd like to see them in a summary form, you know, for our next, but before our next meeting, so we can study it and have,
And be
you know, render
prepared
an
to discuss
opinion
it.
on it. So that's what I'm suggesting that we have staff do.
Is that doable, Manager Reed, for you and your team?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this. Thank you for taking the time with your directors to go through our existing policy and take a look at the recommended policy that was before you. I love it when we can go from great to greater in whatever we do. So I look forward to discussing this and finding a place if we can to move it forward, if that's the desire of the board. Anything else on that? Okay, I gotta zoom back to the top of my agenda here. Let's see here, committee of the whole. We are now to nearing the end of our agenda, but we have a closed session tonight. We do. We
usually let the last
public
public
comment.
comment
Do that
before we
first.
go to closed session.
So then
I don't
the
have-
linger?
Yes, not that we don't love
Hang on,
lingering, but
No. You want to come up here? Okay, we're gonna have public comment first before we go into closed session. And then we will adjourn, we will come back and adjourn the meeting after closed session. So you don't have to linger. But if there's anyone who would like to come up and speak for 3 minutes, you may do so. Clock is got the timer on tonight. So she is the timekeeper for tonight. Please state your name and where you live.
Good evening, board. I'm Sherry Ritchie. I live at 1206 Brookside Drive. I was so happy to hear about the Delta Library getting this Excellence Award. I have been there so much for the last 5 months because I had to relearn Excel. And every single person there, it doesn't matter what time of the day or night I go in there, every single employee there knows how to use Excel and they could help me refresh my skills. And it was just awesome. Sometimes I went in there in a big hurry and I was a little cranky and they just helped me and they were so patient and wonderful and friendly. I love them all. So that's a wonderful award for our library to receive. They
Yes.
deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you. They certainly do. Any other public comment tonight? Not seeing any movement whatsoever. We are going into a closed session today. Manager Reed, is there a blurb that you can share about why we're going into closed?
Sure. This is to discuss written material from our attorney regarding our water resource recovery facility project.
Yeah, the biggie. Quick questions. I move that the Delta Township Board adjourn to closed session at the request of the township manager under the Open Meetings Act, Act 267 of 1976, Section 8(1)H, MCL 15.268, 1H, to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute.
Share support. Support. I don't think there's any discussion, so we will have a roll call vote, please.
Clerk is yes. Trustee Mohica. Trustee Lyman.
Aye.
Trustee Cascarilla.
Yes.
Trustee Bowen.
Yes.
Treasurer Fedowa.
Yes.
Supervisor Brewer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent. We will move across the hall for our closed session. The meeting will still be on, I believe, on YouTube or airing, and we will be back. Order. And if there is no further action from the board, I'm looking around. We are adjourned. Thank you.